Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and I guess you are all just getting to see how freaking lazy I am because we're having another video over by my desk because I do not want to set up my filming location. So we're just gonna be okay with that. So if you guys do not know or do not watch my wrap-ups, I marathoned a whole shit ton of reverse harems in the month of April, I believe, and I had a lot of fun. I had only ever read one, I believe, reverse harem before April, and now I have read so many. I read so many entire series. I tried so many different books and it was such a fun time. And so I thought for this video, I'm sorry, I'm gonna fix my shirt. So I thought for this video that it would be fun for me to recommend some of my favorites that I read of all the ones that I read. I describe a reverse harem, one woman with multiple men. The way that I do it is if it's two men with one woman, then I would consider that more of like a polyamorous relationship. For reverse harems, for all of these, there are at least 3 men and 1 woman. So just for reference, that is how these are all. All of them have at least 3 men. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ones to recommend to you. So the first one that I'm going to recommend is Lady of Rooks Grave Manor by Catherine Moon. This one is actually a monster reverse harem romance. The heroine, it takes place also in a historical setting. The heroine for this book, she gets offered a job at this house, this manor, where women get matched with male clients who are of the interesting non-traditional variety to get matched with them and basically like sleep with them and have like some sort of relationship with them, and these women get paid for it. So the heroine is offered this job and she wholeheartedly accepts. She's very excited. She's very open-minded. And she gets paired or matched with a large group of men, multiple different men, and ends up having a full, loving, romantic relationship with all of them, which is not required for the job. She falls in love with all of them, unlike some of the other women in the manor. But she wholeheartedly loves her job. She wholeheartedly appreciates this manor and the ability to explore sexually with multiple different partners. And she has multiple different monster partners or non-human partners. I think one of them is like invisible, one of them is like made of stone or something, one of them is a sphinx, I think there's a vampire. There are, I believe there are 6 men if I remember correctly, but she ends up in a full romantic relationship with all of them, and it is so good. I was very surprised when I first read this book. I believe I read it for a paranormal romance readathon maybe last year, and it was so interesting and so enjoyable, and I went in very open-minded. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but one thing that I did from reading reviews is expect a book of just sex. That's what I went in thinking of. And while a lot of this book was sex and there was not a whole lot of like overarching plot to it, they did develop a very believable relationship between the heroine and all the heroes. And also at the same time were able to have such a positive, like sex positive, inclusive, open-minded story and heroine who was very, very, very sex positive and not at all judgmental about what other people wanted to try, which I loved. I was so happy with the heroine and her open-mindedness for being with these men and not judging them based on the way they looked, based on like what she believed that they would be, and I really loved that. Another book on this list that's also by Catherine Moon is Baby and the Late Night Howlers. This one is a Omegaverse romance, and it is about the heroine whose name is Baby, and she has believed her whole life that she was a beta, and she ends up being what is called a late blooming Omega. So she doesn't perfume as an Omega until she's in her like mid to late 20s. I believe she's in her late 20s. She's like 26 or 27 when she first perfumes as an Omega, and she has to change her whole life because of this. And a lot of women in this world really want this. They really want to be the like 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million, whatever it is, who bloom as a late blooming Omega, but Baby never wanted it. She loved her designation as a beta. She liked the freedom that it offered her and the lifestyle that she had chosen for herself based on the fact that she was a beta. But her whole life changes when she ends up perfuming as an Omega, and she ends up having to move out of where she lives because other alphas live there and she can't stay there as an Omega. She ends up having to go into sort of this like haven place where it's this haven that helps Omegas find packs that match with them nicely. And she ends up on this whole journey of having to try and find a pack for her that she can be the Omega of, but she doesn't fit in still, even though she's now perfumed as an Omega, doesn't fit into the typical idea of what an Omega is. So when she does find her pack, which is with this group of a motorcycle club who are not rich, don't have a nice nest for their Omega to be like built. A lot of like the rich packs will have this really beautiful nest made inside their house, and the motorcycle club doesn't have a lot of money. They live in a strip mall. Like that kind of thing isn't there, but Baby really chooses this pack based off of the people of it, her love for the members of this motorcycle club, and not for what they can offer her as an Omega, because she still has the mindset of a beta. She still is very much like, it's okay for all the other women to be around. She's not super possessive or jealous. She's not, she just doesn't fit into this typical idea of what an Omega originally is or usually is, and I really liked her. I really liked her as a heroine, and she made it a very interesting story, and I really liked the way her relationship develops with each of the members. I believe she has 6 alphas, if I remember correctly, and she also has a beta who she bonds with, and their relationships are awesome. And the beta is also bonded, the male beta is also bonded with another one of the alphas, so it does include some like male-male elements and like a threesome situation. But it was very good. I really enjoyed it, and I really liked Baby's situation, and it was something different than I had ever read from an Omegaverse. The next book that I am going to recommend is the Shifting Fate series by Tessa Hale. This one it is more like a young adult type series. The heroine is actually in I believe they're all in high school when it starts, and it's very much like not super explicit. Like, I would consider it more like new adult. And it follows the heroine who doesn't know that wolves exist, but she moves to this new town where she meets these guys and finds out that they are actually werewolves, and that in their werewolf pack it is very normal for a woman to have multiple partners, and that the number of partners that a woman has represents the amount of power that she has. So it's typical for a woman to have 2 or 3, but the heroine ends up having, I believe, 6, and ends up being like a super powerful shifter. And she has, it's a 3-book series that each end on like cliffhangers, so the 3rd book, like, you have to read all 3 in order to get the like full story. But it deals with some mystery elements of her trying to figure out who her biological parents actually were, because she was adopted, and her biological parents had to have been shifters in order for her to be a shifter. And it is very interesting. I liked the development of the relationships, and I liked how each male that she was bonded with and had like a different thing for her. He like was different. She had a very different relationship with each of the men, so it was very easy to distinguish each of the men because her relationship with each of them was so different. So one of the heroes was a super wounded, closed off, kind of like reclusive hero. One of them she had a really friends to lovers type relationship with. One of them was like the super cocky, like bad boy type. So it was very like, you got a lot of different like tropes, elements of different tropes in this one book, which I found very fun. The next book that I'm going to recommend, I have actually only read the first 2 in the series. I really need to continue, but I absolutely loved the first 2 books in the series, so I had to include it on this video, and that is the Dark Side series by Christy Cunning. Cunning or Cumming? I think it's Cunning. It is the first book is called 4 Psychos, and it is so good. I gave this book 5 stars. It is about a heroine who is sort of like a ghost. She has no physical body, and she is sort of tethered to these 4 guys that she can see, and she can see everything that they do, but they can't see her. They don't know she's there. She can't talk to them, but she has been tethered to them for the past like 5 years, and so she watches them, she sees them, she feels very protective of them, and like she's like a part of the group, but they don't know she's there. So one day when these men are all sleeping, there are 4 men, and one day when the men are all sleeping, somebody attacks them, and she is able to fight and defend them, and she gains a physical form. While the physical form still can't be touched in the beginning, the guys can actually see her, and they find out that this girl has been watching them for the past 5 years, and she is the most sassy heroine and so fun. I was laughing out loud so much through this book because she's been watching them for the last 5 years. She knows a lot about them, and they're super weirded out by it in the beginning and like sort of suspicious of her, but she like gains the ability for them to see her, and she immediately starts talking about how which one is her favorite, and as soon as she gets a physical body that they can touch, that she's gonna sleep with all of them and like actually like do actually like be able to have sex with all of them, like she's watched all these women do because they share a woman, and she's like, I've watched you have women for the last 5 years, and it's my turn. And it's so funny and it's so fun. And I read book 1 and book 2, but I haven't read book 3 yet, and I believe there's 4 books in this series, so I do really want to continue, but it was so fun and so funny to read this book, and I loved it. The next one that I'm going to recommend is the Madison Kate series by Tate James, and also the Hades series, which is like a follow-up series to the Madison Kate series. They sort of like go together, but you don't have to read both of them. But I read all 4 of the Madison Kate books, and then I read all 4 of the Hades books, so they kind of like merge together in my mind as like one giant series, because they do kind of like show up in each other's series, or are talked about in each other's series. So for Madison Kate, it is about this heroine whose name is Madison Kate, and she is at a fight, MMA fight, an underground MMA fight, one day when this giant riot breaks out, and she meets these three men, and something happens that night that she ends up getting super blamed for. And she blames these three men for sort of ditching her and having her get blamed for the whole thing. So it's like a year or so later, her whole life has changed and turned upside down. It's a year or so later, and she shows up back in her small town where these three men are living in her house where she's supposed to be living and are going to the same school that she's supposed to be going to. And so the three of them and her end up living together and having this really enemies to lovers type relationship, because Madison hates them in the beginning because she completely blames them for everything that has happened to her in the last like 2 years. And they have to sort of like, they have so many secrets that they're hiding, and they have to sort of like try and still keep the secrets from her, but also try and get her to like them because they all are super attracted to her. And it is so fun. It's so fun. And it's ridiculously addicting. I could not stop reading these books. I read, like I said, all 4 of them, one after the other, and it probably took me maybe 5 days to read all 4 of them. I was loving them. They do get a little bit creepy because there's this like stalker that Madison is dealing with, and they are trying to also figure out like who her stalker is, and her stalker gets like progressively creepier, and it's so good. It's so fun. It's so good. It's just enough darkness. It's like a mafia type story also, and it's so good. The Hades series follows up from that, and it's another mafia, or I guess like gang. It's more like a gang. It's another gang, another gang in the same town. There are like 4 different gangs that are run in the same town, and Hades runs one of the other gangs, and that is its own separate 4-book series where Hades has three men in them. In that one, and she is a gang leader and has to work life while being a female gang leader and trying to keep the fear and respect that she has from the other gangs in the same place, because as a female gang leader, she is like, she has to be really scary in order to do it, while also managing these relationships with these 3 men. With Hades, you have like such different, like I said in the other series that I was talking about, you have such different tropes from each of the men, which is one of the reasons why I really love reverse harems, because I realized that you get so many different tropes in the same series because you're having multiple different relationships that are all going together. So like with Hades, you have a virgin hero, you have a friends to lovers, you have an age gap romance. It's so, and like such good tropes. And then like with Madison Kate, you have like, again, like sort of like a friends to lovers vibe, and then you have like a broken hero, and then you have like a alpha whole hero, and it's so good. So good. Love it. And would very much recommend the series. I think since this video is getting long, I think that's the last one that I'm going to recommend. I do have more, so if you do want a part 2 for this video and more reverse harem series, I can do a second part, but those are the ones that I'm going to do in this video. So thank you so much for watching. Please give it a like if you liked it, and I hope that you will subscribe and stick around so that you can see more videos from me. But that will be it for this video, so I hope you have a great day. Bye!